Hi, I'm Debra Vogler, Senior Technical Editor of Photovoltaics World Magazine, reporting from Solar Power International 2010 in Los Angeles. My guest is Paula Mintz of Navigant Consulting. Welcome to the show, Paula. It's always a pleasure having you as a guest. I know I'm looking forward to some candid responses.
Thank you, Debra. Well, you never do know exactly what I'm going to say.
Well, my first question for you is this. A lot is at stake for the solar PV industry in next month's elections. What are you hearing from industry sources, experts?
Well, to answer it on a global basis, because it's a global industry, we have changes happening in the feed-in tariffs in Europe because they have both stimulated a market remarkably, driven us to multi-gigawatt levels, and crashed and burned most of the markets with them. So they're adjusting the tariffs, and that is of concern globally, and what that means is constrained margins, ouch, in the profit field. In the U.S., essentially, we have a real conservative movement in the U.S. And the largest market, which is California, let me focus on that. The largest market, which is California, first we have Proposition 23, which would roll back our 33% RBS here, which is absolutely necessary to keep pushing California forward. And we have a potential, not to let my politics show, to have a governor who may not believe in promoting renewables as much as the last governor. Let's just leave it at that. On the federal level, a change in the Congress so that it is controlled by Republicans may just stall legislation going forward. So there's a lot of important things happening state by state and nationally. What I'm hearing, anxiety.
All right. Well, my next question for you might not ease anxiety. I don't know if this will ease anxiety or not, but how about, how are the various market regions squaring off? There's been a lot of optimism at the show. At least that's what I've been hearing. But is it warranted?
Well, I'm a market researcher, so I believe nothing. Glass isn't half full, glass isn't half empty, measurable bottle of liquid in it, and I'll tell you exactly how much is there and what it is. I think optimism drives all industries, in particular solar, which has so many struggles over so many years. Is it warranted? Over the long term, yes. But I think what we need to hope for is that our market continues to grow sort of methodically. I just leap out and be a bit controversial here. 10 gigawatts a year is probably not supportable in the near term in the U.S. and maybe even the long term. What we can hope for is strong, significant growth. We are a startup industry. We could possibly look for a 30 to 50% growth every year in the U.S. I would rather look at it in terms of increasing the growth every year as opposed to a gigawatt, goal. Is the optimism warranted? Yes. But let's temper it a tad.
Okay, fair enough. Well, my last question for you is, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question of you for an interview. What are your thoughts regarding thin film versus crystalline silicon?
They're both viable technologies and will be viable in the future. Unfortunately, for thin film manufacturers right now, with the exception of First Solar, which indeed does have the lowest manufacturing cost in the industry, giving it more cushion in the margin, making it more competitive. Crystalline is cheap, 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 cheap. As long as crystalline is cheap, thin films have to be cheaper. The reason is thin films, which are less efficient, pay an area penalty. You need the simple way to describe that is you need more of everything. So you have more highly efficient crystalline competing at aggressively on price with every all the technologies actually have to compete with aggressive low price. Right now there's pricing for share. That unfortunately makes it a harder struggle for thin films, but they will survive.
Well, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for asking me.
All right.